Hello, everybody. Welcome along to your Rabble Live at 5. I am very aware that we have a game tonight, but I'm also very aware that there's that much transfer speculation going on that we'll probably have to save the build up for the game to our show tonight at 7:30 because we've got far too much to get through. So, hello, everybody. My name's Martin. I'm your host for this evening, and my co host tonight is a man who's looking even more dapper than usual with his brand new camera. Connor, how are you?
Evening, yes, not too bad. No long back in for work, hence the digs. You see, this is this is what you've got to do, and it's winter, Martin, so you've got to wear a jumper because it's far too cold to just be wearing a shirt.
I've never heard of a shumper before, but I maybe
It's
try
a
one.
jumper. It's a false collar shirt, you see, and inside the jumper, which means you get the warmth of a jumper and the suaveness of a shirt on the one. It's ideal. Aye, all good. Back in for work and into the chaos that is Rangers Football Club and the transfer market at this moment in time, because it feels like every 5 minutes something else has changed or something else is being reported. Which I suppose in one way is a positive, isn't it? Because we often moan about how nothing's getting done. Maybe this time there's a bit too much going on because it's hard to follow.
It's very hard to follow. One thing it does confirm, though, Connor, is Andrew Kavanagh, the 49ers, whoever it is that's holding the purse strings, is not afraid to spend. I mean, I think somebody calculated that so far this season we've spent 37 million, which is incredible for any Scottish team to spend that in a full season. It's absolutely incredible, but I don't think the spending stopped.
No, and look, the reality is, and this is the thing, when we get to May, if we've not won the league title having spent 37 plus million, because let's be honest, by the time this transfer window is done, it more than likely will have gone over the £40 million mark. Because whatever happens with like Nadiri, for example, you get him, that's 3.5 million. So there's your 40 straight away. Even if we don't get him and Joel Piroe comes in on loan, there's probably going to be another signing anyway after that. So, you know, if you get to me and you've not won the league, people would in a normal season say it's unacceptable. How can you not win a league title when you spent the guts of £40 million? And you'd be right. The issue for us, Martin, has been that £20 million of that was spent by Russell Martin and assembling dogments. The rest of it at the time has been spent on getting Danilo players in to improve this squad and keep pushing us forward in a direction that we're going in. So, you know, it's all about context. But I mean, like, I hope. I mean, the Nadiri one, I'm not sure about. I have to hold my hands up and say, I'm not sure. You know, Rostock trying to pour us over the coals for £5.5 million odd pound. I don't feel like you pay £5.5 million for a player that plays in the German third division. I just don't think that that's what you do if you're a serious football club who wants quality players, because you can bring in a much better player from a much higher league than that. And it's nothing against Nadiri, because he might be an absolutely fabulous player. You know, you'll be shocked to know, Martin, I don't watch third division German football, so I've never really seen him.
You should be ashamed of yourself. Absolutely ashamed of yourself.
But yeah, like, whatever happens, I think we'll get a decent player on our hands. Even Joel Piroe, you know, people a bit unsure about him. Yeah, he's not really played in the Premier League for Leeds, and there's been a multitude of reasons for that. But look at his record prior to that. He's actually not got a bad goal scoring record, all things considered, at Leeds. I think it's like, was it 30 odd goals, 32 goals, something like that, in 80 odd appearances he's made for them. It's not a bad turn, you know, around, to be fair.
I'll tell you what we'll do. We'll leave Nadiri and Piroe where they are. And we'll first discuss a youth player, I think. Because again, we could be here all night talking about this corner, and we don't have the time. But Ashton Scally, young left back, 15 years old. The manager wanted to get him and Finlay Curtis on the park in the Scottish Cup. Obviously, for the rules, we weren't allowed. It would never appear, Connor, that he'll be heading to Chelsea. Chelsea picking up yet another one of our youth players. And look, again, this conversation can have many different strings to it, right? But I think overall, can you blame youth players at Rangers for seeing the money at Chelsea, even if they've realistically not got much of a chance of breaking through? Because what chance have they got of breaking through at Rangers?
Well, this is it, exactly. And not just because of Rangers. You have to say that if you're looking at it, right, possibly as a young lad, Chelsea coming in for you, oh, you're going to go there. Even in their academy, you'll get more money anyway, just by beat, because Chelsea can afford that kind of, and he'll be someone who will look at it as there's an opportunity. Even if he doesn't necessarily break into Chelsea's first team, you impress in the academies in England, all the other Premier League teams start swooping about because their scouts are looking and watching, and he'll have opportunities there. The opportunities aren't up here. A lot of it's for Rangers in terms of what we do. I feel for years what we've done hasn't been good enough for the youth players, and I know you and Willie Irvin have often spoke at length about the academy and the importance of it, and it feels like Rangers as a club don't treat it as important as it should be, because over the last number of years, the only real academy product that you can say we've garnered any sort of success from was Nathan Patterson, and that was in such a short period of time before selling him for £12 million.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Finlay Curtis looks a terrific player, and we have said, I think to a man on here, we've said he needs to get more game time. He deserves to get more game time, especially when you look at the positive impact he's had on games that he's became involved in.
Mm-hmm.
So for Ashton Scally, he's looking at that thinking, well, if Finlay Curtis isn't getting in, what chance have I got now? Danilo, I know, was, as you say, hoping to play him in the cup game. The rules prevented that. But that's another problem in itself. What kind of self-sabotaging football association stops its own young prospects from getting the opportunity to play first-team football because of rules that I don't really see entirely the point of, personally? But again, that is the rule, so there's nothing you can do. But you'll get the opportunity there. And Chelsea, listen, as much as Chelsea are a bit of an up and down club these days, they are a club that's rich history and success and winning things, and you'll certainly learn a good mentality and a good attitude at a club like Chelsea as well, no doubt.
He will, and I mean he would learn that at Rangers as well if he stayed. But this is what Chelsea do. They bring in loads and loads of young players. Hardly any of them get a game for the first team, but they still manage to sell them for 10, 15, 20 million a piece. And they end up in the 5 leagues across Europe, the top 5 leagues across Europe. So it'll be interesting to see how his career goes if he does leave. I know that Rangers really wanted him, really wanted to keep him. They see this young boy as having a real big future. But it'll be interesting to see what happens to him throughout his career. Danilo, Connor, it would appear is making the move, or possibly making the move back to the Eredivisie. Every time something like this comes up about Danilo or players similar to Danilo, it's always the same point. Best move for all parties, Connor.
It is the best move for all parties. Listen, Danilo, and he got a goal the weekend. He didn't celebrate that goal. I think that tells you everything you need to know about the situation with him, that he didn't celebrate it, because he also knows time is up. It's unfortunate because, you know, you forked out £6 million for this guy, which is not chump change for a side like Rangers. And you look, and again, this isn't his fault, because he doesn't determine how much money somebody wants to pay for him. That is above his pay grade, so you can't blame him for that. But you look and as a fan, and you think how much more we could have got for that £6 million than what Danilo has actually delivered us. You know, you could have been looking at plenty of good plays. You could have, in my opinion, but for that £6 million, Martin, we could have had both Lennon Miller and Lawrence Shankland in our squad. And I don't think anybody can convince me that they would not have been better than what we've seen out of Danilo. And again, some of it circumstantial. He's had injury problems to boot, because when he first came in, he did excite a little bit. The first couple of performances, when Danilo, he was getting on the ball, and when he was driving forward, it was, there might be something here. This boy's got something. And I don't think there's any question he can be a good finisher. You see the finish. I mean, the goal against Hibs epitomises what he's capable of. Just a cultured finish, not blasting it, just placing it perfectly into a corner. That's the type of player he is. His problem is, to do some of that, he wants more time and space on the ball to manoeuvre it, and you don't get it up in Scotland. So it might benefit him and suit him more going back to the Netherlands where he has previous experience and will know. Unfortunately for Rangers, you'll take a hit. We're not going to make our money back on him, but I think ultimately it's just time to cut the cord here and say thanks very much for your efforts, but see you later.
Well, and there's a crazy rumour kicking about that I'll bring up in a wee minute. It's absolutely mental. But Paul saying, I read it was a loan for Danilo. Don't know if it's with an option obligation. That's what I read as well, Connor, that it's going to be a loan. Again, don't know the details of said loan, even if it's not with an option or an obligation. If we can get a team covering his wages at least for the rest of this season, I suppose that helps with then looking to offload him at the end of the season. Obviously, we would rather be sitting here, Connor, saying, well, it's going to be the reported 2 million transfer fee from club A, B or C. But if it's a loan, there's not really a lot we can do about it because he's probably one of the hardest players, I would imagine it is, to sell at the football club right now.
Of course, at the end of the day, and again, as you say, the most important thing is you get his wages off the books for a period of time, and then everybody can collectively look at the situation again when it comes time to. And I think, again, firstly, right, people seem to think that players being bought or sold, that clubs are always going to want players, so there's always going to be somebody. But the reality is that regardless of any issues a player's had, they all have their own demands and expectations. So there will be loads of clubs at a lower level that would snap your hand off for Danilo and go, come here. But Danilo himself won't want to go to those clubs. He'll still want to be playing at a certain level. And of course, when a player is under contract, and Danilo still is, at least for the next, 2 years, then you can't force him effectively, because the only thing you can do is you could rip up his contract. You could say, we're terminating your contract. But then you have to pay him for the remainder of that contract, which is then going to cost you. So you're in a catch-22. That's why you need to make sure that you get everything done properly for all parties. And it might, as I say, almost certainly will mean you take a hit to do it. But if it's in the best interest long term, and let's be honest about it, unlike the previous owners, the 49ers can afford to take a couple of £1 million hit on Danilo to get him out the door as soon as possible on a permanent basis.
Well, yeah, but you've also got, I mean, this is a really good point. Hopefully, if he does go out on loan, he finds some good form and drives his value up, if there's no an agreed price, obviously, beforehand of that loan. That's probably about the best that we can hope for, Connor, because the clubs that would be interested in Danilo right now, I don't think they're able to pay his wages, if I could try and get that out in English. It's covering his wages because at the end of the day, he's on a really good wage here, a very, very good wage. And trying to get clubs to cover that for the level that will be looking at him. There's not a lot of teams in the Eredivisie that pay big wages.
There isn't, no. We've got to remember about the Eredivisie is there is actually, when you think about it, a lot of similarities in the Eredivisie in Scotland in terms of the stature of the clubs. You've got a couple of massive clubs, PSV, Ajax, the household names, everybody knows, clubs that have had a rich history in European football, particularly Ajax, more so than PSV, but PSV have got their own accolades that they can hold, and they tend to be the two teams that dominate Dutch football. Feyenoord being the other one, yeah. But Feyenoord, again, they're a team who have their peaks and troughs. I actually look at, and maybe it's wrong, but my looking of it is you take those three out of it, the rest of the league, I think, are comparable to some of the teams up here. I think, for example, this team that he's going to neck, they're actually doing not too bad this season. I had a look at the table earlier. They're sitting in fourth, a couple of points behind Ajax. They're having a pretty good season. I would liken them to the Hearts, if you will, of that Dutch league. And that's not a slight. It's just, I think, when you're comparing the levels that they normally operate at, they are more akin to that.
Well, right now, Hearts are the best team in Scotland. So,
yes.
Well, I mean, technically, if you're going by form, it's us, but they're sitting top of the league. So,
but I'm talking in a historical sense. I'm talking in a sense of what they represent. How many people have heard of Nick? Compares to Rangers or Celtic or Aberdeen.
Well, everybody's got one. So,
aye. Sometimes
Well,
it's
actually, that's not true. That's not true. Not everybody has an ex.
There is. I think there's somebody that might not. But that leaves a problem, because my central point to that is that then means that there's only really a couple of teams, i.e. Feyenoord, PSV, Ajax. They're the only teams that could afford his wages. Now, he came for Feyenoord, so are they going to pay that money to bring him? Probably not. No. I wouldn't imagine. And I don't see PSV or Ajax looking at him. So all the other clubs, you're absolutely spot on. They just cannot afford to pay that kind of money. No. So he would need to take a wage cut or hold out in the hope that a bigger club or a championship club in England who can afford to spend that kind of money will come in for him.
Mm-hmm. Now, moving on to the mad mental rumour that I heard, and this is one of these ones. It's only doing the rounds because of the manager that we have, right? I would imagine that there's not a lot of truth in it, to be honest. He's currently playing in the MLS. I think he's doing not bad over there. And it is Thomas Muller. Connor, I've heard this so often. And I mean, look, it would be amazing for shirt sales, right? But in all seriousness, with this rumour kicking about, is Thomas Muller still of the quality that we need at the football club right now?
Well, I mean, look, he's a big, well-known name in the world of football for many years. Danilo has a decent relationship with him, which is obviously where this comes from, because he worked with him as a coach at Bayern Munich. The fact he's in the MLS. The MLS currently is in the off-season, so there's every chance you could conspire a deal that sees him come and play a few games. It would be a bit mental. Would he be good enough still? I mean, yeah, I would imagine so.
I've not seen him play since he left Bayern, so I've got no idea what his fitness is like.
His fitness is the biggest problem, clearly, because he's obviously not. I mean, he's played 7 games for Vancouver Whitecaps. Incidentally, he's scored 7 goals in those 7 games, so he's still got it. When you look at it that way, I'm just trying to look here to see what the injury. So he joined them in August, and he's made 7 appearances, but their season obviously curtailed December or something like that. So it's probably just a conspiracy. Listen, see if you could get him for a cheaper price. Why not? As far as I'm concerned. And I tell you what, Scott Fry. I mean, does that mean that when he starts doing set pieces, we can call it a Muller corner?
I forgot about your worse dad jokes than mine. I really, really did. I know, look, it'll be, again, I will repeat myself, it'll be interesting. If that actually did happen, the shirt sales, they'd probably run out of shirts, to be honest. It would be good financially to bring Thomas in.
Huge. Again, even in that short-term spell, you make all that money in the shirt sales, and then see he's off next season. Bang. Yeah.
Because I would imagine he's on a fairly good wage over in America. A wage that we probably couldn't come close to matching. So, but again,
the only thing about Thomas Muller is there is no way on God's green earth Thomas Muller is kicking a ball on the surfaces at Rugby Park, Livingston, or Falkirk. They would be 3 games you wouldn't play him in. But then we don't really go to. I think we go to Kilmarnock and Falkirk this season. I don't think we go to Livingston again. But that's probably the one thing you wouldn't do. But listen, it's all fantasy stuff. It feels like playing FIFA, Martin. Like sometimes in FIFA, or Football Manager, you bring in a wee legend. Normally, it's somebody that's sitting in the free market. That you go, oh, have I done it recently? Actually, I took over the job at West Brom and I brought in Memphis Depay because he was a free.
As you do.
As you do. Aye.
By the way, do you remember a time ages ago when if you put Depay in Twitter, you get banned?
Did you?
Do you remember that?
I think this is before the Musk era.
I don't know. I think there was an issue with the technology or whatever it was. I can't remember exactly. But if you had put Memphis Depay into Twitter, you got a ban. And it was a wee bit mental. But anyway, like I say, that's one of those mental ones that the only reason we're getting linked to him is because of who our manager is. So if we do get him, as Kylo Knight says, Muller is never happening, but imagine the scenes. Yes,
Well, listen, I'll tell you
imagine.
one thing. This is something you've got to utilise, though. See, with a manager like Danilo, who has worked in Germany and worked with some big players, you can utilise that. I'm not saying you're going to bring those players, but what I mean is he will know loads of talented players. He'll have a bank of contacts, and there's nothing wrong with trying to exploit that from time to time and going, listen, see if you can get a Thomas Muller in the door simply because he's got a relationship with Danilo. Magnificent, as far as I'm concerned. Obviously, I don't think it's going to happen. I think it's, frankly, a bit fanciful. But why not use the contacts you've got if you can?
Yes. And, well, talking about contacts, there is a game on the night, by the way. I know I've probably all forgot about it with the transfer madness. But there is a game on tonight, and I am delighted to say that we are now joined by the man, the myth, the legend, Wilf Marshall. Wilf, how are you?
Good evening, gents. How are we?
I am very well, Wilf. How was your travel?
Travel was okay, a wee bit hairy yesterday. Flight from Aberdeen to Gatwick was a bit late, but we managed to get our connecting flight over to Porto. So arrived here in an absolute downpour of rain. It was horrendous, but thankfully it stopped raining a bit today. The Bears have been down in the old square, the old Ribera Square, where we always seem to gather in very, very large numbers. The thing that's really surprised me, there are hundreds and hundreds of Bears over here without tickets, which is incredible for a dead rubber.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you, Wilf. Obviously, you've been at that square around about a lot of Rangers supporters. What is the feeling for the away support going into this game?
Nobody's actually mentioned in the game, to be honest. Nobody, I mean, I've not heard anybody say, we'll win, we'll lose, we'll draw, anything. It's just people saying, they're just here having a good time. The pubs are all very, very busy. Bears are all really good, really good. I think everybody's realised that the game, in essence, doesn't mean anything, although Rangers don't play meaningless games, obviously. But there's so many supporters over here. I honestly thought that the tickets, given we got 2,500, would be a free-for-all, but there's actually, as I say, hundreds of guys over here, guys and girls over here, without tickets. And there's also several hundred in the home end as well.
It's mental how we always manage to find a way into the home end. I don't know how we do it. I really don't know how we do it. What's your thinking, Wilf, about the game tonight then? You've travelled all the way over there. What are you expecting?
As long as we put up a decent fight, I've got no idea what the team will be. You can't change it too much because we don't really have the bodies to do that. Unfortunately for us, Porto are currently sitting 9th in the standings. They win today, they go into the top 8, and they'll finish in the top 8. Unless there's some freak results elsewhere. They should finish in the top 8 if they beat us. So they'll be going for it. Having talked to a couple of staff in the Porto shop earlier on today, talked to a couple of guys there. One of them says, look, he said, I quite fancy a draw, but Porto really have to win, so they'll be going for it. Because, another member of staff said, look, you don't need the points, we need the points, let us win. To which we replied, we probably won't need to let you win, because I would imagine that, they'll be up for it a lot more than we will, but we just need to keep our good run going. Right here, right now, I'll snap your hand off for a draw. I'm obviously going to predict that Rangers will win, because I always do, but I wouldn't be surprised if we didn't.
I'm thinking back to what you said there. Hundreds and hundreds of supporters without tickets for a game that essentially, competitive-wise, means not a lot.
Martin, it's mental. I couldn't believe it. Everywhere I've turned, people have said to me, have you got any spare tickets? Any spare tickets? I say there's I would say at least a couple of hundred Rangers fans going to be in the home end. There's guys I was talking to earlier that don't have tickets at all, but they've heard that they're going to sell, Porto will sell tickets for the section next to the home end for Rangers fans. I don't know if that's true or not. But I know Rangers asked us to apply for these tickets back in September because they were putting a flight on or whatever. But, the fact that so many people are here without tickets, it's incredible. I don't know whether they would expect Portuguese sun. They certainly haven't had that because the weather's been awful. But it's our support's second to none. Absolutely second to none.
Do you think, Wilf, that the fact, because, you're right about our support, you follow no matter what, but do you think the fact that it is Porto, and even though it's maybe not the Porto team of the past, the Jose Mourinho Champions League winning side and the players they've had, do you think the fact that just that name in European football alone is part of what's attracted people? Because it's an opportunity that you might not get again for, years upon years.
No, I don't really, Connor, because I know I've got a couple of personally, I've got a couple of friends who didn't come because it's Porto, because we've been here a couple of times in the last 20 years plus. In the last 10 years we've been at Porto 3 times, because the twice we've been in Braga, a lot of beers stayed in Porto. So really, it's a place that we've been a lot. So I know guys that haven't come because, well, it's Porto again. But there will be obviously an element of people who, it's a chance to go to Porto. Portugal's great. Porto's a lovely city, despite the rain. But I know there is a lot of people who didn't come over because, well, it's Porto again, isn't it?
Martin's on mute.
Well, it's bad news. It's bad news. Have you had a chance, Wolf, to keep up to date with all the transfer speculation?
I don't really do too much speculation, as you know, Mark, because we link with all sorts of people, and some of them aren't going to happen. We'll be linked with guys out, and I've been hearing that the 13 million euro bid for Czerniki was a real thing, wasn't a real thing, might have been a real thing. It sounds like we're in for the guy from the German third division from Hansa. That sounds like that's grown a few arms and legs overnight. I haven't really had a look to see how close it is, but their manager's saying a few things, and I believe he's put in a transfer request. Is the last that I saw. Whether we're in the box seat or not, I don't know. But I'll use tomorrow to catch up on the transfer speculation and otherwise, I think.
Well, just before I let you go, Wolf, just quickly, on Nadiri, German third division and Rostock are looking for €5 million. Would you be comfortable with us paying €5 million for a player for the German third division?
Not for a player for the German third division, no. Because if he's a €5 million player, there should be teams from bigger leagues looking at him as well. I would imagine. So if we're going in paying €5 million for him, I'd be very surprised. I think if we get him, we'll probably get him for a lot less than that. Particularly now that he's handed in a transfer request, if that's actually true. German third division is not that bad a league, to be perfectly honest. From what I know about it, but I wouldn't be comfortable paying that kind of money for him.
No, neither would that. Wolf, mate, enjoy the game.
I'll try and jump onto the pre-match. I just thought we've come into Pizza Hut beside the stadium so that everybody can get a wee feed, and I thought I would just jump on because I realised the Live at 5 was on. I will try and get from the stadium, but I've got a feeling it's going to be loud because the Bears have been on the piss all day. So
as is their right. It
absolutely is.
Sorry, mate. Chest gone again. Wolf, mate, all the best, mate. We'll speak soon.
All right, lads. Enjoy it. It's good the rest of the show, what's left of it.
Cheers, buddy.
Here's the Rangers win tonight. Cheers, lads.
Cheers.
He always predicts a Rangers win. Always.
Well, listen, the eternal optimist as well. Until you're sat in the stands beside them when Rangers are getting beaten.
It's not even. As soon as the whistle goes, it's the ref's fault straight away. But listen, Connor, Joel Piroe. Does Paraf need to speak to Paraf and negotiate with Paraf to get a deal for Rangers? How does that work?
So, does Paraf need to negotiate with Paraf to make a deal for Piroe?
Well, that's a better way to put it, yeah.
Well, it's an odd situation, but it is one that I'm amazed it's taken us this long to look at, frankly, because, I mean, firstly, right, we have this connection now with Leeds because of the ownership. Parag obviously has only got 1% of Rangers, but he is a majority there. That makes him someone who will be approachable to do a deal with. Now, I imagine, as funny as it would be for him to be negotiating with himself, I'm sure that Kavanagh or whoever else will probably do that side of it for us. But why not use the opportunity to do that? If you've got a player at Leeds who, like Joel Piroe, who's a decent player, decent striker, Rangers are in need, and the fact is Piroe's just not going to play this season in the Premier League for Leeds, then why would you not go, listen, why put him to your other club where it could still help us? I'm not saying you do that with him. You don't just give Rangers the run to the litter for Leeds just because. But, I think it's a smart thing to do. Incredibly, Celtic approached Leeds before we did about signing a player from them. And don't get me wrong, I did laugh at that, and I'm glad that Parag Marat had a good laugh at it as well, because I don't know what they were thinking. What we'll do is we'll approach Leeds, that club that's owners also own part of Rangers. That's who we'll phone, because that's who will help us out with a player. But, why not use it? I think we should. And Piroe is, again, as I said, he's got a decent goal scoring record. He's not played this season for Leeds, but I don't know the ins and outs of the reasons why that is. I don't know if there's been an injury. I don't know if it's just the fact that he's fallen down the pecking order, because when you're going into the Premier League and trying to stay up, Leeds have done fairly well, and they've got decent players at the top of the pitch right now. So it's obviously difficult to make his way into a starting berth. If you don't get the boy for Germany, bring Piroe in. You know, I think if you've got him there with the goals, you know that he can contribute, and hope that he can get off to a good start. Because the important thing is he's got to be able to come in and hit the ground running. There is no time for hanging about. We're in a 3-horse race for the title. There can be no hanging about, and we meet one of those horses very quickly in February, and then a few weeks later the other one comes to Ibrox as well. That's a massive opportunity for us. The one advantage we have over Hearts and Celtic right now is that both of them have to come to Ibrox before we need to go back there. We actually are in a very good position where that's concerned, because we don't need to go back to their places until after the split. Meaning you could, in theory, put yourself in the, and put them in the rear view mirror by then, ideally. But certainly he needs to be able to come in and hit the ground running and handle it. I think, why not do it? It's a cheaper option, but it's also an option that might have to be exercised, because I am not going to sit here and be happy if we end up overpaying for another player after the £8 million debacle on Chermiti. It would be another waste of money for me.
Yeah, and we've still got to wait and see if anything happens with Gassama, Chermiti. Also, if anything happens with this guy.
Nico Raskin.
And all the transfer talk about Nico Raskins went nowhere in January. There's been not a single bit of it. So I just was looking for an excuse to play that clip, if I'm being brutally honest with you. Folks, that will do us for your Rabble Live at 5. We are back tonight at 7:30 for channel members for full matchday coverage of Porto versus Rangers in the Europa League. That includes build-up, it includes your full watch-along and a half-time show as well. And then straight after the game, we are back on public YouTube for your full post-match reaction. Connor, my friend, thank you very, very much.
Pleasure. Hopefully we win tonight. I will sadly not see the game because I've got an 8s game tonight in our 8s league in Tory Glen, of all places, so the roads are going to be chaos.
Lived in Tory Glen for years.
Yes, but I'll certainly keep myself abreast of the scoreline, that's for sure.
Well, you better keep yourself abreast. It's always quite handy.
I've got 2.
I've got 6. So, but anyway, if I could just ask everybody before you leave the stream, because I know that as soon as I say time up, loads of people jump out. If you could please hit the like button and the subscribe button, and make sure you're following across all socials. And if you're watching on Twitter or Facebook, please do share. And of course, if you want to help out the podcast a little bit more, then consider joining up as a member now. For as little as £1.99 a month, you get loads of extra content, and you're helping to support independent Rangers media. And just before we go, can I say a massive thank you to our channel sponsors, Sol Tire Trading, your experts in bankrupt stock. If you're looking for anything, and I mean anything, and you're struggling to find it, email the guys, sales@soltiretrading.co.uk, and if they can get you, they absolutely will. Sales@soltiretrading.co.uk. Right, well, for channel members, we'll see you in a couple of hours. For everybody else, we'll see you shortly after the full-time whistle. So thank you, Connor. Thank you, everybody else. And I can't play that outro video because we'll get in trouble. And we'll speak very, very soon.